3 years ago, my marriage came crashing down after I tried to warn my brother-in-law about his unfaithful wife, and my own husband left me for it. But time has a way of setting things straight, and now karma has come knocking. His life, a complete disaster. Let me take you back a bit. I'm 37 now, and I was married to Liam, who's 42, for a decade. For the most part, our marriage was good. There were a few minor issues with his family, but nothing I couldn't overlook. Liam came from a tight-knit bunch. His older sister, Emily, she's 46 now, was married to Jonathan, 48. They had 2 kids, and Emily stayed home with them. Liam absolutely adored those children. They meant the world to him. I liked them too and was the cool aunt. So things felt pretty relaxed and fun when we were all together. About 5 years ago, things got tough financially. I decided to leave my job because it was ruining my mental health. The work environment had become unbearable, constant pressure, no boundaries, and not even a hint of support from management. I talked it over with Liam, and he fully backed my decision to step away. Our finances were separate when it came to personal spending, but we did share a joint account for shared expenses like groceries, date nights, and household stuff. Since Liam earned more, he contributed a larger dollar amount, though we both gave the same percentage of our incomes. I'd been careful. I reviewed my savings thoroughly before taking the break, and I was confident I could manage my share without needing help. Liam even offered to cover my part at one point, but I declined. I didn't want to mess with a system that worked, and I certainly wasn't looking to become dependent. Liam also had a great job at a multinational company, so in theory, there was no reason we should have been struggling financially. But about 3 months into my career break, his behavior changed. He became irritable and short-tempered. He'd snap if I asked to order food or got annoyed if I bought something new. Even when I used my own savings, which he had no claim over, he'd act strangely possessive and judgmental. It was out of character. Liam had never been controlling about money before. Eventually, I confronted him. At first, he brushed me off, but then he confessed he'd gambled away almost everything we had. It turned out Liam had gambled away nearly all of our money. I was devastated. I'd trusted him completely, not just with our shared expenses, but even with managing my personal account. I hadn't kept close tabs on it because, up until then, there had never been a reason not to trust him. At first, I thought he had to be joking, but the look on his face told me he wasn't. His dad asked him if he still felt the same way he had 2 days earlier. He quietly answered yes. Then his mother chimed in, telling him that, no matter what he was feeling, he had no choice but to go through with the wedding. My ex's frustration finally showed. He pushed back, telling them he wouldn't be bullied into doing something against his will. His father responded coldly. They couldn't make him marry someone he didn't love, but they could disinherit him if he didn't. The choice was his. His mother jumped in too, lecturing him about how now that he was a father, he had to step up and be responsible. She said it was bad enough he'd had children out of wedlock. The least he could do was fix it by marrying me instead of dragging it out, because he wasn't ready. His father agreed with her. Then, my ex started venting. He said it wasn't fair, that he was being backed into a corner and pressured into marrying me just to avoid being cut off financially. He complained about how no one ever cared about what he was ready for, not me, not his parents. When I decided to keep the babies, he hadn't been ready to be a father, but he stayed because he was pushed. Now he was being forced into a marriage he still wasn't prepared for. He kept going, angry and bitter, saying he was tired of everyone making decisions for him and dumping huge responsibilities on him he didn't want. At some point, he must have stormed out of the room, leaving his phone behind. I stayed on the line long enough to hear his parents criticizing how irresponsible he was acting, and that's when I finally hung up. I sat there in complete shock. It turned out the only reason he agreed to marry me was because his parents threatened to cut him out of their will. And I was finding this out the night before we were supposed to say our vows. For a few minutes, I couldn't even process it. He had always acted so committed, a great boyfriend, a devoted father. Nothing in his behavior ever hinted that deep down, he didn't want any of it. He had hidden it all so well that I almost believed the dream we were building was real. But now I knew the truth. When I finally pulled myself together, I packed up my boys and left. Luckily, they were already with me. I jumped into my car and drove to a small hotel out of town. It was late. The babies were fussy, but I managed to get them back to sleep. Then, without saying a word to anyone, I blocked my ex and his entire family. I cried all night. Everything I thought I knew about my relationship, our future, had been a lie. At around 4 in the morning, I finally passed out from exhaustion. The wedding, the venue, all of it had been paid for by his wealthy parents. For once, at least, I wasn't stuck worrying about the money. My heart sank. I wanted to walk out right then and there. This break from work was meant to help me heal. But suddenly I was staring down a financial nightmare. Once I sat down and really looked at our accounts, the reality was even worse than he'd admitted. We were broke. Our home was one step away from foreclosure. Panic set in. I threw myself into job applications while also getting Liam into therapy. Thankfully, within 3 days, I landed a job, great pay, fantastic benefits. I knew it would be a long road, but I also knew I could rebuild. As angry as I was with Liam for destroying everything we'd worked for, there simply wasn't time to process the betrayal. Survival came first. I kept urging him to reach out to his brother-in-law, Jonathan, for help. He was loaded, but Liam refused again and again. I never understood why. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was shame. Whatever it was, I wasn't about to let us sink just because he couldn't ask for help. So I called Jonathan myself. I laid out everything, and to his credit, he stepped in right away. But instead of being grateful, Liam exploded. He accused me of humiliating him in front of his brother-in-law, saying I had emasculated him. It didn't matter that we were broke. Hanging by a thread, his ego was more important than reality. That was my breaking point. I told him straight, he didn't need me to emasculate him. He did that all by himself by throwing away our future. We were even planning to start a family, and now everything we'd built was gone. I told him I wouldn't even consider having a baby until he showed that he could take real responsibility for our life together. Instead of owning up to what he'd done, he called me controlling. I couldn't believe it. Over the next year and a half, I worked nonstop. Together, though mostly through my initiative, we managed to pay back every cent to Jonathan. I will always be grateful to him for stepping up without hesitation, especially when none of this was his fault. Liam, on the other hand, still carried a grudge. He hated that I'd let Jonathan see the truth, even though Jonathan had never breathed a word to anyone, not even to his wife, Emily. But despite how tense things remained between Liam and me, I still held on to the hope that maybe, in time, we could repair what had been broken. And then something else happened. Something that finally erased whatever respect I had left for him. Even as our financial situation stabilized, I noticed something was off during family gatherings. There was a tension I couldn't quite explain. Emily and Jonathan always seemed solid from the outside, but something about them lately didn't sit right with me. I know it wasn't really my business, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, especially with Jonathan. I brought it up to Liam, asking if he noticed it too. He brushed me off, saying I was reading too much into things and that everything was fine. A couple of days later, I stopped by Emily's house to drop off some tarts for the kids. They're crazy about them, but Emily's behavior was strange. She seemed flustered, anxious for me to leave, barely making eye contact. The moment I stepped out, my gut told me something wasn't right, so I lingered in my car, watching the house. Say what you want, creepy or not, but intuition had never failed me before. Sure enough, not long after I left the doorstep, a man came out of the house. Emily was walking him to the door, saying goodbye in this hush-hush kind of way. The guy had a cap pulled low, and his posture screamed, "Don't look at me." It didn't take much to put the pieces together. Her whole vibe was guilty. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the way they acted, it was obvious. She was having an affair. I was disgusted, shocked, angry. How could she do that to Jonathan? Of all people. For a moment, I wanted to storm back in and confront her, but fear and doubt held me back. Instead, I drove home and told Liam everything. I expected him to be outraged or at least surprised, but what he said left me speechless. He didn't react at all, just asked if I'd told anyone else. When I said no, he actually looked relieved. Then he told me to keep quiet and pretend it never happened. I was stunned. I asked him if he'd lost his mind. How could he expect me to let Jonathan continue living a lie while his wife betrayed him behind his back? Liam's excuses came pouring in. We don't know the full story, he said. Maybe they have an open marriage. But we both knew Jonathan. That wasn't him. That wasn't their relationship. I insisted we talk to Jonathan first. He deserved the truth. If we went to Emily first, she'd just twist the story and cover her tracks. Liam kept resisting. He said it wasn't our place, that it wasn't our business to get involved. There were moments when I wavered, tempted to believe him. He kept throwing out justifications, trying to frame it as compassion or neutrality, when in reality it was blind loyalty to his sister. And I'll admit, a part of me wanted to keep the peace too. But deep down, I knew it wasn't right. This man Jonathan had been there for us when we were drowning. He saved us. And now, I had a chance to do right by him. I was stuck between Liam's manipulations and my own conscience, caught in a tug-of-war that drained me every day. Eventually, I reached a breaking point. I couldn't stay silent any longer. It didn't matter how much trouble it caused. But before going to Jonathan, I decided to give Liam a heads up. The moment I told him, he completely lost it. Saying he went ballistic doesn't even cover it. It turned into the worst fight we had ever had, worse even than the ones we had during his gambling crisis. He kept yelling that I had no business meddling in his sister's marriage, that I was going to destroy her life. I told him point blank that his blind defense of Emily's cheating and his total lack of outrage were deeply concerning. I asked him, what would you do if I were the one cheating? Would you want someone to tell you or keep it quiet? And his response, he said he wouldn't want anyone else but me to come clean. That answer made my stomach turn. Something about his reaction, it just didn't sit right. The way he kept defending Emily so aggressively made me wonder, was he trying to justify something in himself? I had no solid evidence, not even a hint before this. But now a suspicion had crept in. What if he was cheating too? I pushed those thoughts aside for the moment and went straight to Jonathan's house. I'd hoped Emily would be there so we could confront her together, but no such luck. It was just him. I told him everything, what I saw, how Emily had acted. The mystery man leaving the house. Jonathan broke down crying. He confessed that he'd suspected something for a while but never had the courage to accuse her without proof. He thanked me for being honest, even though all I really had was a gut feeling. After that, things went quiet. Weeks passed with no word. Liam and I were barely speaking, stuck in a tense, silent standoff. I don't think he told Emily that I had talked to Jonathan. But then the news came out. Jonathan and Emily were getting a divorce. The announcement hit Liam's parents like a wrecking ball. They were completely blindsided. To the outside world, Jonathan and Emily had always been the perfect couple, loving, stable, picture perfect. No one saw this coming. No one but me. Emily looked wrecked. She'd clearly been crying for days, but Jonathan never aired her dirty laundry. He handled everything with grace, just saying the relationship couldn't be saved and leaving it at that. A few days later, Emily showed up at my place in a rage, screaming at me with everything she had. That's when I knew Liam had finally told her it was me who had exposed the truth. She hurled insults I won't even repeat. I kept calm and told her she had no one to blame but herself. Her choices, not mine, had led to this. She cheated, she lied, and now she had to live with the fallout. By then, Liam and I weren't even pretending anymore. We were living under the same roof, but it felt more like coexisting with a stranger. The tension was unbearable. To make things worse, Emily and Liam began quietly turning the rest of the family against me. Emily stopped letting her kids come over to see me, and Liam started spinning his own version of the story. He told his mother that I had poisoned Jonathan's mind with lies about poor, innocent Emily, that I was the reason they were getting divorced. Just like that, I became the villain in everyone's eyes. The family jumped to her defense so quickly. No one stopped to ask what actually happened. No one wanted to hear my side. I was the scapegoat, and they all ran with it. One day, I just snapped. Between the fallout from Liam's gambling and now this mess, I'd reached my limit. I realized there was no coming back from this. I didn't want to be married to a man I no longer respected. A man who gambled away our future and could still defend cheating, as if it were a minor offense. His behavior made him look guilty, And though I had no concrete evidence, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was cheating too. But by that point, I didn't even care. I had already emotionally checked out of the marriage. Whether he was or wasn't unfaithful no longer mattered. What mattered was that I needed out. So, I did what no one expected. I called the entire family together. I told them the truth. I laid it all out. That I had seen Emily with another man. That I had confided in Liam, and instead of being rational, he doubled down in protecting her. I explained that when I told Jonathan, the siblings teamed up to paint me as the bad guy. I also let them know how cruelly they had treated me throughout the ordeal, turning their backs on me without a second thought. And I was done. Done with the lies, the gaslighting, the manipulation. To my complete lack of surprise, Liam's parents started defending their children immediately. That was when everything crystallized for me. This entire family was toxic, and I had been absolutely right to plan my escape. For my own sanity, for my peace, I had to cut them off. Then came the final blow. I told them I was divorcing Liam. The room went still. You could hear a pin drop. Liam's face was frozen in disbelief, like someone had dropped a bucket of ice water over his head. His eyes were wide with shock, and for once, I felt something close to satisfaction. He had finally realized that I wasn't bluffing. I told him, very calmly, that since he loved his family so much, he should go live with them. He had 2 weeks to move out of my house, because I was fully committed to this divorce. That's when his entire attitude shifted. Suddenly, he was all apologies and promises, saying we could fix this, that we could work through it. Maybe we could have once, but I didn't want to. He tried everything, organizing date nights, booking spa appointments, acting like all I needed was a little pampering. But he completely missed the point. I had to sit him down and spell it out. I wasn't leaving because of neglect or lack of attention. I was leaving because I couldn't stand the man he had become. And that wasn't something flowers or dinners could fix. Eventually, he had no choice but to accept it. He moved out, and our divorce went through not long after, just around the same time Jonathan and Emily's did. A few months later, I sold the house and accepted a job in a new state. It's been 3 years since that move. I've cut ties with almost everyone from that family. The only person I still occasionally speak to is Jonathan. That was the end of it until 2 days ago when I got a text from an unknown number. It was Liam, crying hysterically. He called me in a full meltdown, blubbering about how letting me go was the biggest mistake of his life. He said he should have trusted me, stood by me, fought harder for us. I wasn't exactly in the mood to entertain his dramatic regrets, so I cut to the chase and asked what was going on. Turns out, he had recently married one of Emily's friends and claimed he'd been happy. But the happiness didn't last long. A week ago, both Emily and his new wife disappeared. At first, he panicked. He even went to the police. But when they finally got back to him, the news wasn't what he expected. The women weren't missing. They were fine. They just didn't want him contacting them. In short, Emily and Liam's new wife had cleaned out his bank account and run off together. I'll be honest, I didn't feel sympathy. I felt vindicated. Call me cruel, but after everything he put me through, I couldn't help but smirk. He was bawling like a toddler on the phone. And all I could think was, you built this grave. Now lie in it. I gave him a flat, sorry to hear that, and told him I didn't really understand why he was dragging me into his mess. He went silent after that, and I knew my jab had landed exactly where I wanted it to. Then he had the audacity to ask me for help, said he needed me to help track them down, and to give him advice on fixing his finances since I had done it before. I nearly laughed. I told him to get lost, that I wasn't lifting a finger for him, that whatever consequences he was facing now, he had brought entirely upon himself. I reminded him that I was done with him, done with his drama, done with cleaning up his messes. Then I hung up, and I won't lie, it felt good. I deserved to feel good. He made me rebuild everything after his gambling. I worked, sacrificed, scraped us out of the hole for him. And after all that, he still showed me who he truly was, someone who would defend cheating, manipulate the people who loved him, and side with his sister no matter how destructive she became. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was realizing that everything I did, every ounce of effort I gave, ended up meaning nothing. So yes, I'm glad he's finally feeling the fallout. Small update. I couldn't help myself. I did a bit of digging, call it curiosity or well-earned pettiness. Turns out, Emily and Liam's 21-year-old wife had booked a luxurious trip to Europe. They're living it up, posting selfies, fancy meals, spa days. Their social media is packed with updates. The kicker? It's all public. They just seem to have blocked the entire family. So no one knows what's going on unless they go looking. Now I'm torn. Part of me wonders if I should tell Liam what I found, give him a lead, at least. But the other part knows better. If I offer even a shred of help, he'll latch onto me like a parasite. And besides, if I could find this info with a little effort, so can he. Maybe he should stop sobbing into the phone and try using his brain for once. He sent me another long, tear-soaked message just this morning. He sent me another message this time saying that if I didn't help him, he'd hit the lowest point of his life. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep absorbing his breakdowns every few days. A part of me almost gave in again. But something held me back. Update 2. Some time has passed since that last message. And of course a fresh wave of drama has exploded. I did end up telling him what I found about Emily and his wife traveling through Europe, and he actually thanked me. But just like I feared, the gratitude was short-lived. Almost immediately, he began asking for more favors, more help, more guidance, more me. That was my line in the sand. I told him, clearly and firmly, that I was done. No more favors. No more conversations. He sounded offended, like my refusal was some grand betrayal. But to his credit, he didn't argue. I thought that was the end of it. 2 nights ago, my phone rang in the middle of the night. My ex-mother-in-law, frantic. She said they were in serious legal trouble and needed my help because I'm a lawyer. My heart sank. Against my better judgment, I asked what had happened. And then she said it. Samantha, Liam's 21-year-old wife, had apparently eloped with him. And now her parents were threatening to press charges for abduction. I shot upright in bed like I'd been struck by lightning. Liam had run away with a girl barely out of college. And although 21 is legally an adult, the whole situation reeked of manipulation. Then came the real kicker. Samantha was now siding with her parents. She was claiming that Liam had groomed her, that their relationship started when she was a minor, and that she wouldn't be defending him in court. My mind reeled. I did the math. If they'd been involved for years, that would have made her 17 when it started and Liam, 38. Jonathan told me that her parents didn't have solid evidence, but it was enough to scare the family. Liam ended up paying Samantha and her family to keep quiet and not press any charges. Now, he's completely financially ruined. Emily tried to play innocent, claiming that Samantha told her about the money Liam had given her. But everyone knew it was a lie. They don't have anyone else to cover for them. The latest news is that my ex-in-laws are planning to downsize, and all live in a 1-bedroom apartment. While they try to sort things out, Emily is working a minimum wage job, and Liam has absolutely no money left in his bank account. Jonathan told me that Emily had called him begging for money, but he refused to help. He has full custody of the kids, so she couldn't manipulate him into giving her anything. All in all, the whole family is codependent and seriously messed up, and I'm so glad I got out when I did, even though I would have preferred never to be involved with them at all. I'm relieved I escaped their chaos in time. I hope Liam serves jail time for what he did to the poor girl. He's a manipulator and a criminal, and I know for sure that if he got away with something like this once, he'll do it again. I wish there was something that could be done to put him behind bars. But sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with his parents and sister is like a jail in itself. So he's in for a fun time. I haven't been contacted by them, and I have them blocked on every account and device. So I'm hoping nothing else happens and I don't have to update again. I'm so tired of their drama and just need some peace in my life. That was the missing puzzle piece. That was why he had defended Emily's affair with such rabid intensity. Because he was hiding his own sins. Because he wasn't just a gambler, or a coward, or a liar. He was a predator. I told my ex-mother-in-law exactly what I thought. That if Samantha had come with him willingly and was of age, her parents wouldn't have a case, but if she was now alleging grooming and underage involvement, then they had a case, and a serious one. And no, I would not represent him. In fact, if it came to it, I'd gladly fight against him in court. I reminded her that this was the same son who had cheated on me, drained me financially, manipulated me, and is now being revealed for the disgusting man he truly is. She started sobbing, then cursing, then hung up. I've been struggling to sleep ever since. My skin crawls at the thought that I was married to someone capable of this. Maybe there were signs I missed, or maybe I just didn't want to see them. Either way, I feel sick with shame and disgust just remembering that part of my life. He deserves every ounce of what's coming to him. Jail, judgment, isolation, and more. And Samantha, poor, young Samantha. I can't even be angry at her. She was a child when he started preying on her. If she was 17 when it began, she was still in high school. Liam was almost 40, and the worst part, I don't even know how she was friends with Emily, or if Emily was the one who introduced them. That would take this to an entirely new level of disturbing. My life has been saved, and I managed to escape their destructive influence just in time. Thankfully, I haven't heard anything from my ex's family anymore. My ex-mother-in-law has gone silent, as has Liam. However, Jonathan did contact me and shared a few new details. It turns out that Emily and Samantha came back home a few weeks later. This was when Samantha started changing her story. She said she had been groomed and wanted to divorce Liam and return to her parents. Her parents then got involved and said they would press charges against him.
And here's what I'll tell you at the very end. You watched to the end, which means you'll like another format of long stories on this channel. Subscribe and like.